Hey, seasoners, welcome back to yet another episode of the Travel and Tourism Podcast, my first season. My guest today worked for Club Med from 1996 to 1998 as a ski instructor and also golf instructor. His first season was in Club Med Copper Mountain with Chef de Village Aureo Stern, and after that season, he worked at Paradise Island as a Golf G.O. Before Club Med, he attended the University of Illinois Urbana-Champagne and obtained a degree in finance and marketing. He also played some high school baseball we're going to talk about, so please, let's give a warm welcome from Chicago, Jeff Schonoff. Hey, Jeff, how are you, sir?
I'm doing awesome. How you doing today, Greg?
Good. Thank you for being here. I got a shout out right at the top, Mark Kelton, ex-GO friend of the podcast, who referred me to you. So all referrals get a shout out. So thank you, Mark. That's why I'm here with you today, Jeff, to get your story, your origin story. Are you ready to light this fire, as the kids say?
Oh, let's light it, man. Let's light it.
Okay, let's go back to high school a bit, because you were a pitcher and a shortstop, correct?
Yeah, played baseball for as long as I could remember. Played all the way through high school. Tried it in college. Didn't work out so well. But and actually played baseball up until in men's leagues up until I was about 38.
Is that in common in the States, like to be a pitcher and shortstop?
Usually it's a function of like when you're little league and it's like, hey, who could throw hard? Okay, this kid can throw hard, so they got to save the arms, and the kids can only pitch so many pitches. So inevitably, when you're little, everybody gets a chance to pitch, and I just continued that trend all the way through high school.
Do you have a favorite pitcher growing up that you watched?
Yes, definitely Nolan Ryan.
Yeah, Mr. Does he have the most strikeouts or no hitters? Is he no? He had the fastest fastball, right? At one point, if I'm not mistaken.
Probably. A lot of different things. It was just he was hard-nosed baseball. Just was great pitcher. And then also one of my other favorite pitchers, he was a Chicago Cub for a long time, is Greg Maddux.
Whoa.
So two of my favorites.
Two Gregs. Oh, two Gregs on this show. Okay. Pulling double duty. All right. Now let's start with the, you do have a degree in finance and marketing. Okay. So that's pretty impressive. That's not an easy program. Certainly not at my university as well. So at what point, was it before university that you heard about Club Med? Did you see an ad somewhere? Did you go there on vacation when you were younger?
I went on vacation with my parents to Club Med Huatulco. It was the first time I was ever out of the country. It was 1994. It was right around New Year's of 93, 94, somewhere in there. And so my first time out of the country, my parents' first time at an all-inclusive, my first time at an all-inclusive, went down to Huatulco and had heard of Club Med. I had no idea what I was walking into as I guess now I know as a GM, but as a guest there, but just like how interactive all the GOs and the people that work there, how awesome they made, my experience just as being on vacation. I was 20 years old, had never been to a place. So I thought like every place you go in the world is exactly like Club Med.
Yeah. And did you file this away for later? Like thinking, you know what, I may work here one day, or that wasn't on your radar at all?
So I met a guy named Dave Neckenhoff. He's from Santa Barbara. I believe he still lives around the LA, Santa Barbara area. Became friends with him, somebody my age. There was a lot of families there, not a lot of people that were 19, 20, 21 years old. So went down to the discotheque one night and was drinking a Miller Lite. And this dude just started talking to me, and he had like this surfer accent. He's like, "Where you from, bro?" And I'm like, "I'm from Chicago. Where you from?" Hung out with him over that week and a half that I was there. And he had said to me, he's like, "Dude, how cool would it be to work at a Club Med someday?" And I was like, "Dude, it would be awesome." He's like, "Everybody's on vacation. Everybody's having a good time." My 20-year-old self, I was like, "Yeah, that would be nice someday." And you just say that. And I had really no intention of actively seeking out going to Club Med. And then I had visited him in Santa Barbara probably in 1995. It was probably like summer of 96. And he calls me up and he's like, "Hey man, I'm going to go be a GO for Club Med. Like, dude, come meet me." And I'm like, "Where?" And he goes, "Well, Copper Mountain, Colorado." I was like, "Well, what are you going to do?" He's like, "Well, I'm going to be a ski instructor." He's like, "Do you ski?" And at that point, like I'd only been skiing like 3 times in my life. And so I was like, let me give it a try. The worst thing that can happen is I come back home. So took a big chance and bought a one-way plane ticket and flew out to Colorado.
So 96, 97. So there you're basically trying out for the team, correct?
Yes, trying out for the team. So I flew in. I had some friends that lived in Boulder. I stayed with them for a few days. And then my friend Dave drove me up to another Dave drove me up to Copper Mountain. I had to rent skis, I had to rent poles, I had to rent boots. Like I didn't have any gear, I didn't have goggles, I had my Oakley sunglasses. So I was extremely green. Like I did not know what I was walking into.
Sorry, does this take place over a 2-week period or 3-week period?
I don't even think it was that long. I want to say it was probably about a week. And listening to Mark Kelton's your podcast with Mark Kelton, like he was rating people as they were skiing. So it's like I'm doing some free skiing. I'm trying to watch people that I know are way better than me, trying to figure out how to do hockey stops. And I thought I was doing okay. And I think it was probably at the end of the second or third day, I was hanging out with Stinky and Chantel, Dan Ward and Chantel. Her name was Boyer back then. And Mark came into the room. We're sitting there drinking beers, and I'm like, oh no, like we're gonna get in trouble. He's talking to us, and he's like, how do you think you did today? I was like, I think I was doing pretty good. And then he just shakes his head no, and he's like, you were out of control every time I saw you. And I'm like, okay. So
excuse me, Jeff, out of control in a good way or a not good way?
Okay. Out of control in a bad way, okay. in the eyes of a ski instructor who is maybe hiring me. So I had never been on a real mountain. Like the ski hills around Chicagoland are a little rinky-dinky tow rope things that, hey, you go down, you're wearing jeans, you have sunglasses on, maybe you have a flannel on. And that was my experience with skiing before that until I had gotten to Colorado.
Your social skills must have been off the charts then, I'm guessing, by listening to your story. You must have been like life of the party guy, right? Like you brought something else to the table, right? I'm guessing.
I think I did. I mean, it was probably the way I remember it, and maybe it didn't go down this way, but like when they did the final test, and I want to say it was a double black diamond. I want to say it was Chestnut Run or something like that. And there must have been 35, 40 people going. And I waited and waited and waited. Like, cause I'm like, I'd never seen moguls before. I'd never skied moguls. And I'm like, how am I going to get down this thing? I mean, I was terrified. And I'm like, oh no, I'm going to get fired. I think I was trying to pick up pointers as everybody else was going down the hill, trying to like, okay, what are they doing? How are they turning? And I was the second to the last person to go. It was me and a girl named Kim Garrett. And she's like, go ahead. I think I made 3 turns in about a quarter-mile stretch. And I just kept picking up more and more and more speed. I didn't fall, but my legs were basically just taking all these moguls like rubber bands. And then I was like, what I'm going to do? I'm going to impress them at the end. I'm going to do a jump. And I did a jump and it did not go so well. I landed on my face, skis pop off, sunglasses break. I looked like a beach whale, like sliding up to the feet of everybody that was, Claudio Moretti was the head ski instructor. Mark was there. And I'm like spitting out snow in my face. And to my surprise, everybody is hooting and hollering and slapping their ski poles together. Claudio like reaches down his hand and to help me up. And he goes, you've never skied moguls before, have you? I was like, nope, first time. And the way I remember it is they hired me on the spot. It makes for a better story.
Did they hire you for comedic relief, or that, they said, this kid's trying,
Perhaps, I don't know. I mean, I'd like to think I was like, you were mentioning like the life of the party. I mean, really like everybody that, I'd worked with at Club Med over, those 2.5 seasons, everybody's the life of the party. It's like they're there. I mean, the majority of the people are very extroverted. I was probably about a half and half. I did have that side to me, but Club Med really brought that out of me, I think, in a very, very good way.
And how did your surfer friend do? Did he make the team?
He did make the team, but then he ended up leaving. Okay. Probably, I want to say like 3 weeks in, a month in. He was like, no, this just isn't for me. And so now, I was there just by myself, and Dave's friend, Mark Dix, was the one who had told Dave, and then basically it's like, okay, I'm there by myself, and you meet people. And yeah, like I was saying, within the first week, I hung out a lot with with Dan and Chantel, Mark Kelton, Mark Dix, and then just met a bunch of other really, really cool people from not only all over the United States, but all over the world.
Oh, right. Awesome. And as chief of village, Aureo Stern is your first chief, and
Right.
he was from Brazil, right?
Yes, he was.
Okay, so did he bring that flavor to that season? That
Oh,
Brazilian flavor?
he definitely did. Anytime there was a chance to do the capoeira dance, he would want to do it. We would have many like capoeira dances together, and then I got taken out a couple of times, but that's okay. I learned
Okay.
I learned what to do and what not to do.
Yeah, stay away from the legs and the feet, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
So what do you remember about your first season there? Any stories or anecdotes come out of this season?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I considering I was probably I want to say the worst skier, but the greenest skier. Like I had taught, I was a baseball coach when I was, in my teens for my younger brother. I was a gymnastics coach. So I was used to dealing with kids. And so that combined with the fact that I was not a very strong skier, I got a lot of the K1, K2 kids, which were the newer skiers. None of them had poles because otherwise they would resort to sword fighting or what have you. But there were a bunch of times. I probably had 4 or 5 classes where a lot of the ski instructors referred to them as like little rippers, like these kids that had helmets, they did have poles, and they could ski just as good, if not better than me. And I'm like, what am I going to possibly teach these kids? I'm like, we're just going to do jumps all day. How about that? And they loved it.
Okay. Nice. And did they put you in the shows? Like, were you an awesome dancer back home before Club Med?
You could say that. I mean, I don't know if I would consider myself an awesome dancer. I love to dance, but it ended up where like the shows, they were just like, hey, you're going to do this show. Can you dance? I was like, yeah. And they're like, well, okay, you're going to be in this show. And I embraced it with both feet, jumped in, and I was in almost every night's show, I want to say. And I really loved it. I mean, it was just like, even though you might do the same dance or same skit or what have you, it always end up being different. That's the beauty of, we'll say, live theater, if you want to call it, or just live performances. And it was fun because you you jump into that character, and then you learn new things about yourself, where you're just like, okay, the self-consciousness and the introvertedness, that those have to go away. So you're just you have to jump in with both feet and embrace it. I did have it was really cool, like where you'd have, I mean, and I forget how many guests our club held at Copper Mountain, but how many busloads of people come in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, there's like 300 Brazilian people here, and I'm like, I don't speak Portuguese. Like, what? I mean, like, and I have like 15, 20 kids. And so I have to learn shut up and stop in Portuguese. Those were the 2 words I said a lot during the weeks where I had a lot of the Portuguese kids. It's like they had never seen snow before. It was all brand new, and they were very a lively bunch, shall we say.
And do you still remember how to say those words in Portuguese?
Maybe like Kaya Boca or something like that.
Yeah. Kaya Boca. Okay.
Yeah, very similar to Spanish, but yeah. So, but it was really cool, like seeing the excitement, on little kids' faces, where it's just like, they didn't really know how to ski that well, and then by the end of the week, they're making awesome turns and doing like little jumps and stuff like that. So that was the intangible success of being a ski instructor, is when you can see somebody that they actually learned and they were having fun. I mean, that makes it all worthwhile.
And during this season, I've learned again from this podcast that most ski instructors take the summer off, but in a rare turn, you decided to do or become a golf instructor at Paradise Island. So while the season was ending at Copper, are you thinking like, hey, I'd like to stay on? What could I do? Oh, wait, I teach golf. Did it happen that way?
No, actually, I mean, I had no idea that there was like other seasons that like you just went into another season, or you had like a month break or whatever. But towards the end of our season, I think it was Aureo or somebody else that was asking me. I think it was probably him. They said, hey, we really love your energy. Would you like to do a summer season? And I was like, well, sure. I'm like, what would I do? And they're like, well, what can you do? They're like, can you golf? And I'm like, yeah. And I said, I play golf. And they're like, are you good? And I said, yeah, I'm real good. They're like, well, you have to be a 7 or a 10 index or lower to be a golf instructor. And I was like, well, I'm a 7. When I was probably closer to a 17 at that time. So a little white lie, but I felt confident in my ability to teach to teach golf. So it's like I think I probably had maybe a month and a half off, and then bam, on a plane down to Paradise Island.
Did you get some time off at home first, or you flew direct from
No,
Copper?
I did get some time off at home first. I forget. It was probably maybe a month and a half, perhaps 2 months.
Yeah, well, you got to drop off all your winter gear, pick up your bathing suits, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, so you're with Jean-Pierre Grand. So he was my first season chief of village, and you're there, I guess, with JJ as your chief of sports.
Yeah, JJ, absolutely.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I had a lot of people from that season on, and I think was it Petri Tennis, was he there as well? The big man, probably the biggest tennis instructor you've ever seen in your life. You can't forget him.
Yes.
Yeah, shout out Petri.
Very, very, very good. So yeah.
So what was this season like in Paradise?
This season was it was absolutely awesome. I mean, I was in every show as well. I mean, like I probably did more shows. I probably was in shows 6-7 nights a week there, just because I loved it so much at Copper. It was a little bit more. There wasn't as much like downtime, shall I say, because I opened up the golf shack at 6 a.m. I was there for 2 hours, just like giving people balls, and they would hit balls. And then I had a group golf instruction at 8, a golf lesson at 9, 10, 11, and then a golf lesson at golf lesson at 12 that lasted. That one was shorter. Then you had to be to the beach at 12:30 for beach games, which is like, chuck the coconut or other things they have going on. And then, run back to the golf shack, or eat lunch, run back to the golf shack at 1. And then you have a lesson at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I close the golf shack at 6. You have to be by the bar at 6:15. So needless to say, not a lot of time G.O.s learn how to shower and change very, very quickly. And so then you eat dinner, and then you go backstage, and you figure out what order the skits and the show and the dances are going in. Then you do the show, and then you practice for the next night's show. And then after that, all your coworkers, you go out and maybe just wind down between 12:30 and 2 o'clock in the morning, and then you get up and do it all over again.
As a Golf G.O, did you ever take guests to that fancy golf course? I can't remember the name of it on Nassau.
Yeah, it was Ocean. I think it was Ocean Club.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
golf course. Yeah, and we went there usually once a week on like a Saturday or Sunday, or no, maybe it wasn't Saturday because Sundays were travel days. So yeah, Friday or Saturday. But yeah, absolutely gorgeous golf course. It's of course hindsight with anything like this is 2020, and my 23-year-old self maybe didn't appreciate the how good I had it. I mean, but absolutely incredible golf course. I was fortunate enough to go down to Atlantis about 3 years ago with my wife for a work trip, and then play the golf course again. And it's amazing how many holes you remember after almost 30 years of not being there.
And I guess when you saw the Casino Royale movie with Daniel Craig, you saw where you used to work because he visited that golf course in the movie. I don't know if you also see the pool a bit at Paradise Island. Did you see Casino Royale?
I think I have. Yeah. It's probably been a while. I'm gonna have to go watch that again tonight.
Now, since you worked at Paradise Island, I am legally obligated to ask you if you have any ghost stories, because the odd G.O has or knows someone that did see something. So I just have to ask you, Jeff. Sorry about this, but we got to get it out.
I did not. I do not have any ghost story. I know I had heard some stories from some of my other coworkers that they had heard of other stories, or maybe they've personally seen something or some strange happenings, but I did not experience anything paranormal in the least.
Me neither. So do you have any other stories from this season? Non-ghost?
On ghosts, I don't have any.
Non-ghost. Non-ghost stories?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I just have so many awesome memories. The just the people you work with. I mean, it's like, that obviously, GOs work very hard and it's long hours and it's rewarding, but then the rewarding thing is also, it's like it's almost tantamount to being in the military, even though I've never been in the military. But like when you hear about like the bond that people have when they go through boot camp and other things like that, you have that bond with your coworkers. And so it's like the fun stories I have are just like, hearing about people's lives and what they did before, and like just talking to people. And I was fortunate. I think it was me, one of the cooks in the kitchen, in the buffet somewhere, and then Jean-Pierre Grand's his wife, I believe her name was Kim. Maybe we were the only three people from the United States, so everybody else was from all over the world. So it's like, as much as you think you have a lot of differences between you and somebody that grew up in, Germany or Italy or something like that, there's a lot of common things you have being, raised around the same time or whatever era. But I have a lot of great memories. A guy named Mark Lewis. He was the scuba slash like snorkel guy that would take out the boat every day. So made a lot of great friends, not only at Copper, but then also at Paradise Island.
I enjoyed my time there as well. I did a season. It's a quaint little village, and of course, it's probably the closest thing to what I equate a Sandpiper, where you could actually go see a movie if you had the time, or do some shopping, right?
Absolutely. And I found out really quick that I was like, okay, not that this was an everyday occurrence, but I'm like, what is this Kalik beer? I was like, I need some Miller Lights. And then
Kalik, yes.
finding out that a case of Miller Lights like $45. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess I'll drink some Kalik.
That's right. I guess it's now an acquired taste, and I like it. Okay.
Right.
My wallet likes it too.
Exactly. I mean, and there was we would do like, sports team like get-togethers, like, maybe like once every couple of weeks or once every 3 weeks or whatever. And JJ would take us out and we'd go to a place called the Drop Off. That was like a local bar type of thing, not like at least from what I remember, like a non-touristy type of place. I remember him like, this piece of wisdom that he had bestowed upon us, is basically, we're sitting there drinking, having a good time, giving each other, a bunch of, gruff about other stories. And he got all serious and he goes, I want you guys, I know it's easy. He goes, you will never again probably work this hard and have this much fun at the same time. So enjoy every single minute of it. And, I'm like, sure, I'm always going to have this much fun. I'm always going to work, whatever. But his, words of wisdom, it rings true, almost 30 years later.
Yeah. No, I did my first season with JJ, and I always got a kick out of him. And yeah, that was pretty awesome for him to say, and wise beyond his years, because boy, was he correct, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And so Jean-Pierre, did you practice your French with him at all? I mean, he spoke perfect English, but how was your French? I know you went from Portuguese to French, so I was just wondering, did you have to do any lessons in French at all, or were the guests mainly from North America there that season?
No, the guests were from all over the world. And in my first season, in Copper, Chantel was trying to teach me French, and she's like, "Well, this is Canadian French." She's like, "It's the better French." I'm like, "Okay," but and I spoke Spanish, but I was like, I don't get this. But like I on my name tag, I had, the American flag, and then I had a flag from Spain because I speak Spanish. And then when usually it would be the older French people, like, and I say older, like, 50 and above, they'd say something in French, and I'd be like, je ne parle pas français. And then, which from what I still remember means I don't speak French.
Yeah, but you had a very nice accent when you said it, so you must have confused them like you just did me now, because that was very good, Jeff.
That's exactly what happened. And
so they thought you were putting them on, right? And they're like, yeah,
exactly,
what a guy.
yeah.
His accent's perfect.
Yeah. That's like walking up to somebody that you don't think speaks English and they just go, "Hey, I don't speak English." You're like, "Okay, yeah, whatever."
Yeah. Well, they have a very good ear then too, because not many people can imitate that well the French accent. Very good.
Yeah, there was a lot of what was cool is that like and I'm sure you dealt with this. A lot of other GOs dealt with this. Like if you didn't speak the language of somebody else, at least the the activity or whatever that you were doing was the commonality that brought you together. And it didn't matter if, you spoke their language or not. I had a lot of golf lessons that I taught to groups of people from Japan, and they didn't speak English, and I sure as heck didn't speak Japanese. I would just use motions and other things like that, and physically like put their club in a certain spot in order to help them hit the ball better. So it was you definitely had to be creative.
Yeah, I'll say. And as this season's winding down, do you get the bug to go skiing again, or are you needed in Copper, or was it your choice to go there for the 97-98 season?
Yeah, 100%. I wanted to go back. So during my season at Copper, like my first season at Copper, my best friends at the Village were Mark, Dan, and Chantel. What was kind of cool is halfway through the Paradise season, or 3/4 of the way through, Mark came over from Eleuthera and worked as a tennis G.O at Paradise Island. And then I forget if he broke a finger or hurt his elbow doing some skit. He was pretending to be a gorilla or a monkey or something and jacked him up. And then he ended up leaving. I was anxious to go back to Copper to see my friends. I missed everybody. I mean, I missed all the people I had worked with, and I had hoped like that a lot of people that were returning.
And you luck out, you get another Brazilian chief of village. Lucky you, Carlos Castro, right? So you can still practice that Portuguese, I'm guessing, because there was probably a lot of Brazilian guests that came this season as well, right?
There were.
Now, do you have to go through the trials again of moguls, or you're already locked in? Like do they re-examine you again every year or something when you're a ski instructor, or no?
That year, I forget if I don't think they did. I sure as heck wasn't going to be given the adult classes again. So they knew that I loved working with the kids. And most of the time, to be quite honest with you, the kids complained less. A couple of adult classes that I had, they'd be like, oh, I want to do this. I don't want to do that. What, do we have to do this? And with the little kids, it's like, you just tell them, you're like, hey guys, today we're going to ski fast. We're going to ski some trees. And we're going to go over some huge jumps. Now, the trees that you're going into, it's not real tree skiing. The jumps aren't real big jumps, but you had to make it exciting for the kids. And I enjoyed working with the kids classes. So I did get a lot of those kids classes again. So I don't think I had to try out again. Considering I spent the season previous in Paradise Island, I did not exactly get to practice any skiing. I did get quite better the first season, though.
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's true. While you're in the Bahamas, there's not many good ski mountains there, right?
Not many. No.
And this season, was it the same feeling or ambiance as your first season, or by now you're like a seasoned veteran now, and you're showing the newbies the ropes?
It's sort of very similar to the first season. It's like I got into a good groove, I would say. I did leave about halfway through a season. I was homesick. The girl I started dating in Paradise Island, she was from Italy. She wanted to come visit me, but she couldn't go all the way out to Colorado. And I'm like, do I leave my friends and leave Club Med, or do I go back to Chicago and meet her? And when you're 23, I thought she was going to be the one I was going to marry, and I ended up leaving halfway through the season.
Okay, so now you go back to. Did you go back to Chicago?
Went back to Chicago then. Yep.
Okay, so now currently in your life, you are a GNC franchisee. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, I've been a GNC franchisee for about 22 years now.
How does someone, go about doing that?
When after I got back from Club Med, I started working with a couple of my friends. They owned a pizza place in Chicago called Rosati's Pizza. It's a franchise. They're all over Chicagoland. I had worked with them back when I was a teenager at the pizza place, and so they needed some help. And so I moved out to Northwest Indiana and lived there for about a year and a half with them in their house, making pizzas, helping out with everything from delivering pizzas to helping my buddy out with some marketing and special events. And inevitably, we were like, making pizzas by somebody else's recipes and this and that, it's like it's getting old. At least for my buddy was. And so we had the idea, like we would cook all the time late night, and we wanted to open up our own restaurant. So long story short, opening up your own restaurant takes an enormous amount of capital. that 25-year-old Jeff did not have. So,
Can I ask you a quick question?
sure.
Do you watch The Bear?
I watched I believe I watched the entirety of the first season. I haven't seen
Okay.
anything
Now
else yet.
I question anyone's sanity why they would want to work in a restaurant. Like when I watch this show, I get anxiety, and I don't work in a restaurant. Like was it somewhat accurate to what you experienced or no?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, it is nonstop go. And in my, when I was in my early 20s before I went to Club Med, I had worked at a place called Fridays. I worked at a place called Olive Garden. So I guess that's why maybe like I had such a great experience with Club Med because I was always used to being on the go, maybe a little bit stressed out, but then, getting stuff done. And so the restaurant can be a very stressful type of place. Absolutely.
Okay. And as for GNC, like, were you a guy like? Because I've seen your photos, so you obviously work out. So were you like buying products and supplements, and you thought, hey, how does one own or become a franchisee? Is that how the GNC happened?
Yeah, sort of. Yeah. So when my buddy and I we actually were trying to open up a restaurant and had met with a bunch of different cities and municipalities around Chicagoland, and then figuring out like having to buy land or lease land and how much money it's going to cost, and we ended up scrapping that idea, and he moved out to Vegas and started his own thing out there. And then I was like, my dad, who was kind of like our I look up to him a lot. He was a CEO of a bank called Northern Trust for many years, and so he has a lot of good financial wherewithal. And so I'm like, he's like, I know you want to open up a restaurant, but why don't you look into something like franchising? And I'm like, huh. And so I was like, oh, the top franchises back in the late 90s were, Subway, Quiznos, and GNC. And I was like, I'll be damned if I'm going from my own restaurant that I wanted to build to making foot-long subs for people. And then GNC was just a natural progression since grew up playing baseball, sort of an athlete as a skier, but I was always, always working out. And it just seemed like if I could help people get healthier and make a living at it, not that it's any more noble than any other profession, but if I can help people lead healthier lifestyles and provide for my family, that's what was very appealing about
Nice, very nice. And these are all in the Chicago area, Kurt? The three stores?
They are, yeah. So I live about 30 miles southwest of Chicago proper. So I have one of my GNCs. The first one in 2002 is in a city called Aurora. So there's about 200,000 people in that city. My second one was in a city called Homer Glen that I opened up in 2004 that we sold in 2019. I bought an existing franchise, GNC, in a city called Plainfield. And then my newest one is in a city called Naperville, which is really nice town as well. And we built that about a year and a half ago. And so I live in a city called Bolingbrook. So I'm kind of like pretty much, centered, equidistant to each store from where I live right now.
And I guess that your finance and marketing degree comes into help, I guess, at some point, right? I'm assuming.
It does. But yet again, it's just a matter of, I think Club Med really helped prepare me for being like a small business owner. It's a retail business. It's a brick and mortar business. Not only do I have to be a mentor to my younger employees that are anywhere between 18 and 25 years old, I have to, I have to deal with the public, which is just about solving their problems. So I really think Club Med, I can't imagine doing what I'm doing now if I did not have my Club Med experiences to help, I guess, bring my character and like bring my character out and all of my strengths out that were probably shelled up for a long time.
Nice. Excellent. And is there anyone in your Club Med journey that we have not mentioned yet, that we have not shouted out? I don't want to forget anyone. Is there anyone we haven't got to?
Oh, I mean, there's a ton of people. Yeah, my first season at Copper Mountain, I mean, Alfonso Naturelli, he was a ski shop guy, Italian guy, absolutely hilarious. He had the other guy that was there that helped him out in the ski shop. His name was Chuck, and I forget Chuck's last name. Yeah, there's a guy named, his name, we called him Gonzo, but it's Frederick Gonzalo. Greg Calla, awesome dude. Sean Riley, roommates with Eric Bergeron. I believe I think he's from Quebec. Lev Blinchek, Mark Dix, mentioned him. Marilyn Lupin, Mark Essman, which was the DJ, which he had a nickname. I think he called himself Apollo. So just people like Josh Lang, Sarah Eulenhop, Scott Barney, Shannon Brown. A guy named Ryan Gillis was a snowboarder, took me out snowboarding for my first time. Of course, Kelton, Claudio, Glenda, Paula, Eric Turner, of course. So I really looked up to, like, part of the reason I play guitar right now is I spent hours and hours and hours just listening to Dan figure out a song on guitar. I mean, this was before, like, it was in the infancy of the internet. So there weren't like sites you could go to where they would have the tabs and stuff like that. So he learned songs by ear and I was just mesmerized. And so part of the reason I play guitar right now was from watching, Dan, Eric Turner, Mark Kelton play in the Club Med band Friday nights. So it's like there's a ton of people. I mean, I met Florence Rudney. She was a gift shop. Heidi was there. Shaheem, Monica. I met Ian White my second season. Awesome dude. And these are all people that it's what's crazy. And Kelton has come to Chicago a couple times, and we've hung out and gone out for dinner and had a couple of drinks. And it's when you see these people again, it's almost as if there's no time that has passed and you pick up where you left off. And so it's like truly like the friendships I made. It's like any one of these people that I mentioned, if I saw them tomorrow, it would be like we were best friends again. And so I'm very fortunate to have had those experiences.
Did you say Marilyn Lupien? That was one of the
Yeah.
names you mentioned? Okay. Yeah. I did a season with her. Awesome lady. Great girl, Marilyn. If you're listening to this, the world wants to hear your story. No pressure. No pressure.
Yeah.
Shout out, Marilyn. Yeah. All right. That's pretty awesome. And that's just wow. Probably a smattering. I know you can't mention everyone, but man, that's pretty cool that, yeah, when you haven't seen someone in 10, 20 years, it's funny how you just slip back into like no time has passed, right?
It really is. And it's what was kind of crazy is like, as I was, ripping through old pictures, trying to get some pictures ready for you. So people could be like, oh, that's that dude with the awesome hair. That's who Jeff was.
That's right. I think that's how I'm described too. Okay.
Yeah. So I had found some pictures and I had sent them via Facebook Messenger to Sebastian Gruner. He was a tennis G.O over in Paradise. I had sent one to Mark Lewis, and then Andrew Freitag was the bartender down in Paradise. And so I sent him a couple pictures. And it's what's wild is I'm like, oh my gosh, I have all these pictures of all these people, and how come I've never sent them to them? And so I was like, it really, like, I have a picture of Elena Satin, Jessica, Roki, Jeff Green, just like Murad.
Shout out Jeff Green.
Jeff Green, LA Montanaro, Mitsue Category, and it's like Stephen Joseph, man, just like so many people. Michelle Thomas, she was a tennis G.O. I nicknamed her Charlie because she said she wanted a guy's name. When I met her, I was like, well, we'll call you Charlie. She was messaging me a couple months ago. She's like, well, there's a Club Med reunion. I don't know where they said they had it. I don't know if it was Punta Cana or something. But she's like, you have to go. And so I've not made it to any of the reunions. So, but that's something that definitely in the future, hopefully we were messaging back and forth, me, Mark Dix, Mark Kelton, Sarah Eulenhop, about trying to get together and meet out in Colorado and go skiing, and hopefully Turner will meet us out there too. But if you haven't done, have you done a podcast with Eric Turner yet?
Yes, he's up there, sir. He's up there. Yeah, we covered. He's got the best like travel nightmare story I've ever heard. Like, just for that story alone, you should listen to it. But yeah, no, he came on, and yeah, we had a great time. I never actually worked with him, but we found out that he had replaced me as chief of sports in Lindeman Island, but I had never, I had to leave before he got there. So, but yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. And check him out. Circo on YouTube, if you can, Eric Turner's channel. This has been awesome, man. Okay, Jeff, we're coming near the end of this interview, and I just want to know, like, You did some shout outs. Is there anyone you would like to give a special mention to?
Well, absolutely. I mentioned them before, but Stinky and Chantal, I'm sure there's a lot of people that had worked with them. Dan Ward, Chantal Boyer. My second season at Copper Mountain, when I was leaving halfway through the season, it's like I didn't have a ski bag, and Dan lent me his ski bag, and it was something that I was like, I had taken it for granted that I was going to see him again. Unfortunately, I didn't, and I still have a ski bag, and so I keep that as kind of like a awesome memory of him and Chantal. And it's like every night at Club Med in my first season, it's like I hung out with Dan and Chantal every night. It's just I miss them every day. There's a lot of people that miss them, and just absolutely adored them as people, and they were even better friends. And so it's just one of those things I think about often.
Yes. Rest in peace. Yes, most definitely. Most definitely. And now, when you look back at your Club Ed career, you've already said how Club Ed helped you in your job. I'm just curious, was there one season that you did that stood out above all the others, or did you just like them for different reasons? Was there that magical season, so to speak?
Not really. I mean, like each season had its own character. I mean, I was only G.O for 2.5 seasons, but it was yeah. I mean, the season at Paradise was the amount of hours that you had to be on. You couldn't afford to have a down day or a bad day or be in a bad mood, because your job depended on it, and the guests, they want to be entertained and they want to feel welcome, and so when you have friends that are like, wait, well, why would you ever quit? Like, you were living in paradise. No, literally Paradise Island. I was like, well, imagine working 14 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for months on end. And they're like, what? And so that type of that type of grind, I think it prepares many GOs for their successful future of, hey, it's you just have to do what you have to do.
I don't do this often. I haven't done this in a while. Would you like to do some rapid fire questions about
Absolutely.
Club
Let's
Med?
go.
You can pass if you want, if it's too hard to think of something, because I'm putting you on the spot here, but it's okay. Like, you don't have to think too hard, but you can pass. All right. Did you have a favorite crazy sign?
Oh gosh, I don't remember any of them.
Everyone says Muevolo. Okay, so we'll put down Muevolo. I'm sure with Carlos Castro and Aureo Stern, you must have danced to that one. Okay. Do you have a favorite dumb question from a guest? Like, there's one that you recall, like in the vein of when will it stop raining? Is there anything come to mind? It's okay if it doesn't. That's fine.
Exactly. That is like,
okay.
In Paradise Island, like, we came here and paid for our vacation and it's raining. Can't you do something about it?
Okay. Do you have a favorite animation passage like that an animator did that stood out to you? Like, I don't know, the type of animator that stays in character. Was there one in particular that tickled your funny bone?
Oh,
it's okay. You can
not
pass.
really.
Okay.
They were all phenomenal, all right. Absolutely phenomenal, like awesome at their jobs.
Do you have the same recurring dream like today where you were back working at Club Med? Like me personally, I still get them. I'm still working an entire day. I can't shake them. Do you ever dream about Club Med anymore?
I do. I often have, we'll call it a nightmare. Actually, the one picture I had sent you, I don't know if you had looked at it. I was in the 1997-98 Club Med magazine as
oh yes, I saw that. Yes, we're going to post that for you listeners, so make sure you check out Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, during my second season at Copper Mountain, when the Club Med magazine came out, and I was the face of the GO that year, and Stinky and Chantal and Kelton, they gave me a lot of grief about that as well. But that picture was actually taken. I think I woke up 3 minutes before that. It was on a Sunday. I didn't wear my travel day outfit, and I just threw on the first shirt I could find. And 8 minutes later, somebody said, "Can I take your picture? I'm taking pictures for Club Med." And so that was at like 6:15 in the morning. So I guess that was a lucky thing. But I often have nightmares about sleeping through and missing something that I was supposed to be at for club.
Yes, me too. I always forget my passport in my safe when I'm leaving, and I've never done this yet. It's always the same. There's something I forgot, and I get anxiety. Oh my God, that's crazy, right? Did you meet any celebrities your time in Club Med? Athlete, singer, dancer, actor?
I did not. No.
Okay. Did you actually? I should say, are you glad that we didn't have social media back then?
100%.
Okay. I mean, yeah, but I guess you wouldn't have minded, like, because you know how on Christmas Day or New Year's we had to line up to use the phone. It was an expensive call. I guess for the Wi-Fi and call would be cool to communicate with anyone in the world, right? That part would have been great, right, for a G.O.
That part would have been great, but I think that not having smartphones and not having the internet, it really forced you to be in the moment and do what you were supposed to do, which was to make sure the guests were having the best vacation they've ever had. Not saying that the people that work for Club Med these days that you have that distraction, but there's some other reasons I didn't want social media. But then the other reasons I wish we would have had it is like I have probably lost or misplaced so many pictures over the years, and I wish I had those back. And social media would have provided that for us.
Yes, exactly. Now, how about maybe last question would be: is there anything you miss about Club Med? Is there one thing, three things?
Yeah, I miss. I miss all my coworkers. I miss all the people I worked with and became friends with over those 2.5 seasons. Yeah, I miss doing the shows. I miss whenever you mess up on something like that. They're always like the animation director would be like, the audience doesn't know that you messed up, so just keep going and it's okay.
Yeah. Don't draw attention to what you just did. Yeah,
exactly. And it's almost like an analogy for life, where it's just like, hey, there's going to be mess ups, so you just keep going. And so it just I miss all my friends that I worked with.
All right. Well, everyone, that was Jeff Schonhoff. Jeff, please, again, I really want to thank you for sharing your story with us and agreeing to come on. It was very, very kind of you. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, thank you for having me, Greg. This was awesome. I've been looking forward to this for a long time.
Oh, good. And yeah. So if you want to see the Jeff's photo, or he was a poster boy for Club Med, please, you can tease him gently, but yeah, please check out the My First Season Facebook page, and we'll post all these photos. If you're listening now, just go over there and check them out. So Jeff, would you like to take us out and thank our listeners and shout out your friends for listening?
Yeah, I want to thank you first, Greg, for doing this. I mean, this is an absolutely awesome thing that you're doing, and it brings back a lot of great memories, not only for me, but I'm sure for a lot of people that are in the Club Med family that were G.O.s. I shouted out a lot of my friends already, and so that the next person that's probably going to have to do this with you is going to be Marilyn. So
okay.
She has to go with her.
Well, if you can put in a good word for me, Jeff, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. No pressure, Marilyn. Je t'aime. Okay. Well, everyone, we'll see you all next week with another new episode of My First Season. Bye. Say bye, Jeff.
Bye-bye.